Radio Raumstation. 24 hours a day. Yeah. Today, Mr. Jim Jenkin from New York.
Hi, Jim. Happy to have you here in Radio Raumstation, you would say in English. We look forward for a lot of music and information about you and your life, and want to start with a question. I'm actually not sure about this. Are you born in New York? Or where do you come from? And of course, what was your first thrill when you started doing music?
Hey Mel, I want to say thank you first off for having me here and giving me an opportunity to chat. And anyone who's listening, hello from New Jersey, New York area. Thanks for tuning in and checking it out. To get to your question, I wasn't born in New York. I just have worked here the last 30 years. I was actually born about an hour east of New York and an hour north of Philadelphia. So I have always had both cities' media influence me, and I would say that both cities actually have pretty different media markets, and Philadelphia being a more blue-collar blues town and New York being a more glitzy pop radio.
Glitzy is nice.
But I grew up mostly listening to AM radio out of New York. Elton John was the king, and I would say, Paul McCartney, and all the other pop music of the 70s.
If you mention Elton John, I had a yellow-colored vinyl. Yellow Brick Road was the name, and it was really the last cry. Tell us, what was the first instrument you played and your first song you composed? Is there any recording of that we maybe can hear and get some idea about your music development? Would be nice you introduce this to us and hope we can listen.
The first instrument I learned how to play was the guitar, and the first song I was able to play was the first song I ever wrote. I was never really that interested in learning cover music. I just only played to make up my own songs. I started playing when I was 17. I got a guitar for Christmas from my sister, and after fiddling around with it a little bit, taught myself a couple of chords. I wrote this song, and it's as simple as all get out, but it's just learning how to play, and so here it is. It's called Springtime in Iron Spring Park, which was a park around my house that we used to hang out in.
A song animating me to sing? Jim, tell us, history-wise, New York is an electrifying city. Think of heights and flower-powered children. What was your age? And you remember if you were any crazy stuff at that time?
History-wise, New York is a very electrifying city. You know, as far as the flower children, I'm not that old. I was only like, I was 3 or 4. During the flower power era, what was I wearing? Well, I would probably say diapers. I was probably wearing diapers when that stuff was all going on. So my era of New York is really more 70s and 80s. I mean, I didn't really go to New York in the 70s, but I did go in the 80s, and then I got my job in the late 80s, and I've been in New York ever since. And it's a very exciting city. There's a lot going on. Different parts of towns have different scenes.
I had the chance to be there once when we visited a cousin of my hubby in Long Island, Mineola. And we spent 2 days in New York. This was really, really lovely time. I hope maybe I can come back one day. Tell us, I do not want to forget that question. What was the most silly dress you had from today's point of view at the times in New York?
Outfit, I guess you're asking me, or silliest look I had back then?
Yes.
Look. Well, when I look at old pictures of myself, it is pretty funny. I see the old hairstyles and 80s clothes, which were colorful and a lot of graphics, bold shapes and bright colors. And I had long hair that was very curly, and I had a mullet, which definitely is a very dated look now. The long hair in the back, short everywhere else. Pretty silly when you think about it.
I remember a story when I had been in New York. I found in a second-hand shop some plastic boots with plateau and goldfishes inside. I loved them from the first moment. Fortunately, they had been very expensive and I did not buy. I would wear them still, I think. Anyway, I would be interested in if you have ever met famous bands or people you loved in person.
Yes, I've met several famous acts along the way. I got to meet Paul McCartney in New York about 20 years ago. I've met Elvis Costello, who wasn't a very nice man, and I met Huey Lewis from Huey Lewis and the News. I was just getting in the elevator at work. I work at NBC, and he just looked me straight in the face and said, "Hey, man, how you doing?" And gave me a big smile, and he was, very, very friendly guy. Those are the 3 I remember the most. But I've met a lot of musicians along the way. Some were more famous than others, but I would say, Paul McCartney was probably the most famous person I've met.
For sure, a blessing moment in a musician's life. To come back to your life and music, what would you say? Which of the songs you wrote is mirroring this time best? And could you introduce this song to us because you would like to hear it and play it after this?
Which of your songs you wrote mirroring this time best? I don't know. I guess I have 2 songs that I think are still pretty relevant, and one would be Good God, which I wrote the music with Shannon Reed when I was in White Bread. And but I wrote the words for that, and that's mostly just about the power of television, whether it be delivering news or commercials. And we had a good time with it. And I guess another one would be I'm Waiting, which is about the pimping of God, just the whole religion industry here in the United States, where you give me $20 and God will answer your prayers. Kind of nonsense that really frustrates me a lot. And I guess that's about it.
I never
Shannon Reed on bass guitar, that's a real dream. Cool song. Unfortunately, we can only play one of the songs you mentioned. I'm waiting, we will maybe have the chance to hear in another interview. Let us ask another question. I think it's coming to love, and I want to know if you have a love song or maybe any song which is influenced by sad love or maybe left or let's say something very hurting. And could you please explain a little bit more about this song? Because we want to hear it and play it after.
Well, I guess there's always a story of the one who got away, right? The one you loved but didn't love you back. My most emotional song? I would say it was probably a song called More Than Once, and it's about a girl who I dated a few times, and each time she broke my heart. She promised not to break my heart, and then she broke my heart, and I was crushed, and then I would get back together with her years later, and she would break my heart again, and then years would go by, and we'd go back together again, and she broke my heart again. So in total, she broke my heart 3 times. The name of the song is More Than Once, and introduce you to some of the words. You always said that you'd be true. You stared in my eyes, telling me your lies, and I believed in you. Now I don't want you, and I don't need you, and I keep it all to myself.
Really sounds emotional, and here it comes. Excellent song in my eyes to overcome some love sadness. We say Liebeskummer in German, to just say that. If you look at your bands you have and had, who is in and what band is still alive and maybe is doing some music? Tell us something about your history and as well the today's moments of music.
Well, I've only ever been in a couple of bands. One band mostly was my band White Bread, and I'm still friends with most of the guys in there. White Bread was myself, Shannon Reed, Andy Gay, and Albert DeSoto, who would come in and out. He'd quit, come back, quit, come back. You know, yeah, I'm still in touch with Andy. He's my best friend. I've known him for 45 years. We've been best friends for about 40 of those years. He's still drums with me. He's also in, my current band, which Melanie is in, you are in. It's the Sugar Pistols. I guess the song we played most live, well, we played Good God the most live. Everyone seemed to like that one. But another one we would close our shows with was a song called You Look Nice Today, which was a punk song. And people would come out and slam dance to it, and we'd have a lot of fun. So here's You Look Nice Today. It's got swear words in it, so be careful.
Great pogo dancer. You mentioned Sugar Pistols and you mentioned White Bread. How many bands did you have in total?
Like 3 or 4. You know, it's all ever. Not that many. White Bread, the same group of guys. We called ourselves the Alternatives, and then that became the Oranges, and that became the Leftovers, and then we became White Bread. But that's all just one band. And then there's Sugar Pistols with lovely Melanie and Andy and myself. And we bring guest artists in once in a while to help with us. And then I have another band called Sheepshanks, which is a cover band. And we've had a few songs released in the UK through Fruit Demure Records. That is myself, Andy, Amy Frost, Pat Clark, Ted Van Wagner, Chris Reed, Simeon Crease, and Kent Taylor sat in with us too. And we've done a couple of cover Bowie songs, song called Wooden Ships. So yeah, those are online bands.
Considering the Sugar Pistols you mentioned right now, Andy's in, you and me, some other artists supporting from time to time, like Matrix was Mark Roberge at the solo guitar. What would you say is your most favorite until now and why? And can you introduce this song, please, to the audience? We want to play it.
It's hard to say because I think all the Sugar Pistol songs are very special and they all have a uniqueness about them that appealed to me. It's a toss-up. My two favorites are The Matrix and Shine On. But I guess we'll go with The Matrix.
Matrix.
Yeah, I guess so. It's hard to, I like them all. So coming up next is The Matrix.
Tells me, and the way that I live is a way that I give, is a way that I can finally understand. It's just a dream that I live in, dream a dream. It's just a machine that is driving. It's a machine. The smell of my food and the taste of a fruit, it is perfume of diffusion. Progress of time has an echo, as a dive, it's just a blind illusion. Here I am, and I need to follow the wild rabbit. It's not a dream. Here I am, and I need to find my way to get out. Here I am, and I need to follow the wild rabbit. It's not a dream. Here I am, and I need to find my way to get out. The smell
As I said before, this solo was played by guest star Mark Roberger. Thank you again, it's really cool. We are really proud that you joined us for this song. Now coming back to you, Jim. I know you have a lovely young daughter who loves music too, and I think you sometimes play together.
Yes, I do. I have a daughter who loves music. We do play music occasionally. She can read music already, and I can't. She plays piano and violin. But we make up songs all the time together. Mostly we just make these melodies, sing these melodies, and make our own lyrics, and we'll sing them for a while. We have a really good time with that. She's a very special little girl. She's got a lot of talent, and I bet you she turns into quite a songwriter someday. She's only 10, and she's already writing her own songs, and I'm more than proud of her. And I love hanging out with her and making music with her.
Maybe one day we can sign her records. If you could take just one album with you to heaven, which one you would choose, Jim?
I guess my all-time favorite album is probably the Beetle White album. It's a double album, and it has so much different kinds of music on it that I never get bored of it. So, my heaven album is the Beetle White album, which I guess is kind of looks like a cloud anyway, right? It's all white.
Yes, it looks like a cloud,
so,
too.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
We want to know something about your dreams. Is there any song mirroring dreams, or is there a dreamy song you wrote once, and can you introduce this to us to play it after?
I'm not really sure what you mean by that, but the song that is probably the most dreamiest to me is a song that I recorded with Andy and Albert, a song I wrote called The Insect Dance. I'm playing all the instruments except the drums, and Andy's on drums, and he and Albert help me with the backing vocals. So here it is, Insect Dance.
says hi. Like to know if you got a spare fly. Tonight it's do or die. Dance and sing. Be the man who wants to save the world. See the man who wants to save the world. See the man who wants to save the world. See the man, be the man. A braid and on the run. Insect dance has just begun. Dance, insect, dance, insect, dance, insect, dance. Lightning bugs light up the sky. Silverfish 1 second prize. Tonight they're cracking wise. Dance, insect, dance. Be the man who wants to save the world. See the man who wants to save the world. See the man who wants to save the world. See the man, be the man. Tonight God's watching. Tonight God's watching as He cries. As He cries. Tonight God's watching. Tonight God's watching as He cries. As He cries. Tonight God's watching. Tonight God's watching as He cries. As He cries. Tonight God's watching. Tonight God's watching as He cries. Tonight God's watching. Tonight God's watching as He cries.
Wonderful harmonies, excellent song. I'm flashed. Tell me if one of your friends who never had been to New York would come to see you. What would you show first of New York's music scene?
I guess the first thing I would do is probably take them to the Blue Note, because that's a very famous jazz club, and most of my friends into music appreciate jazz, so I guess that would be the first place we would go. And we'd go see some great mellow blues, maybe at a place called Sugar Daddy's down in the Village. But I would think the Blue Note, which is, again, a world-famous jazz club, would be the place I would take my friends to if they were come to see me in the city.
What is your favorite instrument? I think it's a guitar.
My favorite instrument is probably my Yamaha acoustic electric guitar, nylon string. That's probably my most favorite instrument to play, because you can plug it into an amp, or you can just play it as an acoustic guitar. Since I don't play as often as I used to, the nylon strings are easier on my fingers. Yeah, so that would be it.
If you look into future now, what will be next project?
I don't know. I'm really going through a phase right now of not being very productive with music. I had a promotion at work a couple of years ago, which makes my hours much longer and much more hectic. Longer days, the hours are different from day to day. So I have 4 or 5 Sugar Pistol songs and a couple of White Bread songs that are all like close to done. And every time I feel like I'm getting ready to work on them again, something comes along and just whacks my motivation. But I've been through this before. I go through phases in my life where I make a lot of music, and then I go through phases where I don't make any music. So I imagine at some time I'll be back into it, and I'll have a whole bunch more new music for everybody. And I'll finally be able to finish up the Sugar Pistol songs that I've been promising you forever. So in the future, I guess you can look for a song called Extraordinary Girl would be one that I'd like to finish.
Oh, that will
a
be
White
my
Bread song
day
called
ever.
The World Is Running Down. There's Best Boy from the Sugar Pistols. That's close to being done. There's the Revealer. That's or the Reveler. I'm not sure
Revealer,
how
I
we pronounce
think.
that one. It's been a long time since I've heard it. But we'll see. There's a lot going on.
That's good to hear, Jim. Good to know. We are looking very much forward of new music, especially the Extraordinary Girl, in my eyes, of course. I want to say thank you now by playing another Sugar Pistol song, the last song here. I chose the song Venice. I did it for this reason, because I want to show our audience what kind of producer you are. You puzzled together, I think, at least 40 vocal tracks to this song. And please, if you listen to it, then give attention to the rhythm and to the various voices going over each other like nearly a doo-wop. I say thank you again that you have been here. I hope maybe you will come once again.
Well, thank you, Melanie. Again, thank you for this great opportunity to ramble and spew silly things. It's been very interesting, to say the least. I look forward to working with you more. You're one of my dearest friends, and thank God for Vandalism, because without Vandalism, I wouldn't have been able to finish half the songs on that page, and I certainly would have never met you. And I value our friendship and our creative partnership very much. So
do
goodbye,
I, dear.
everybody. Peace from New York.
Peace from Hamburg. And now, Venice.
A dying city, a religion of the past, a part of romance with a heavy smelling dust, milky waters on a morbid colored place, plastic garbage cans, just a human waste. In Venice, where shining water channels flow, in Venice, holy dead lagoon, lights blurring all your faces. I'm getting lost and scared. Wake up from your melancholy. It's you, it's not me. Venice, charming water channel. Wake up from lull sleep. Land in illusion, you're smelling, and you are lost, it's not me.
My name is Melanie Coley.
Radio Raumstation. 24 hours a day.